Where do I start? They say life imitates art. I'm trying to paint a picture. Paint a picture that's licking you scripture. I ain't just another nigga. Another nigga with a dream. It seems we finally made him all believe. A dream to be the reason we come to achieve. The life that we would all kill for, even die for. High score, so sick, so sick. Sick and tired of these little kids talking wrong shit.
Ingalls. I was actually just dropping off film.
Okay.
Because when I was recently in Toronto, I took a lot of film photos. I love doing that now. I was at Atlanta Photos, and I told the dude my name. So I was like, my last name is Ingalls. And he goes, Engallis. I was like, what? Do I have a challenging last name? Because no one spells it right. I don't know why.
Did you spell it right?
How did you spell it?
Ingallis.
Well, there is, I know the Inglis is like a pretty common last name. Much more common than Ingalls.
Right.
But I guess it's my last name, so I have a particular...
For sure.
Like, I think it's easy.
Yeah. Expectations. Look what happens.
But clearly, I need to temper my expectations of other people.
Expect people to know.
But what if I spell it out loud when they ask me? Like, But you know what? It can be kind of nerve-wracking when someone's in front of you and like you're writing stuff down. Like, have you ever tried doing something on the computer when someone's over your shoulder?
Yes.
I can't even find the S key. Like, I can't find the A key. I got no idea where anything is.
Pressure's on.
I can edit a photo, no problem. And someone goes over my shoulder. I'm like, where's Lightroom? What are my keys here? What is paste?
All the doubt seeps in.
It's weird. Yeah. It's so weird. So I'm assuming that the gentleman who was writing my name was kind of going through a similar thing. So you know what? Yeah. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and understand that basically, like, it's a nerve-wracking experience. But then he misspelled Jesse too.
Oh no.
He goes, why? Because you know what? Jessy. But that's because of Jesse's Pizza. He probably eats pizza there.
He must.
I don't see why he wouldn't.
Why not? So
he's putting those things subconsciously together. You know what I mean? So I said, sir, it's Jesse. So it's Jesseingalls. That's me. Thank you, Terrence.
You're here again.
We're back. It's very exciting.
Change the Narrative Podcast, episode 68. I'm joined by the wonderful Jesse Ingalls.
Hey.
I'm your host, Terrence Taylor.
Yo, didn't I workshop an ad lib? I feel like I had one.
Pew pew.
Pew pew swag. Hey, pew pew swag. Yes.
Can we get a soundboard? That's the type of shit we need to have on the soundboard. Can you note that, please? Oh, yes. Pew pew.
Hey.
Swag.
Yeah, I'm still gonna say swag. I don't care how uncool that word becomes because it's never uncool. Swag is from our era.
Yeah, it's us. It's ingrained in us.
It reminds me of them Franchise Boys and Soulja Boy. Like, it just brings back good memories. Laffy Taffy.
Swag.
You know what I mean? Like, oh my god,
we're old. We're young old.
Yes,
we're young old.
Yes,
feels good though.
Well, there's no other option.
This too is very true. Okay, sir, we got some things to talk about.
We do.
We have 3 things on our... Well, no, we have 4.
Okay.
One of them is this wild shit happening with Music Nova Scotia.
Yes.
We're going to have a conversation about that. We're also going to talk about Uniforme.
Yes.
Your brand.
Yes, sir.
Your clothing...
What? Baby. My baby.
Your clothing baby. Mm-hmm. We're also going to talk about your work with the Remix Project.
Yes, very excited about that.
You're teaching something. Shouts to Kashmir.
Yes. Kashmir, she's so nice.
Yeah, another former guest of the show.
Oh, she was on the show too?
Yeah, we did a live show with her.
Oh, yes. Yes. Unfortunately, I missed that episode.
What episode were you on?
I can't even remember which number.
It's like, I feel like it was the early...
It must have been like 29, 28? Or do you think it was before that?
We talked about Scorpion.
Yeah, it was Scorpion. That album has not held up.
No.
It's not held up
not
one
at all.
bit.
Two
very generous.
Don't do it.
Very generous. Yeah. Sorry, generous in my first initial kind of feedback. I think I'm going to have to bring it back a little bit.
Things have changed.
It's not withstood the test of time. That's okay.
Well, he's got other music that hopefully lasts.
The catalog
forever.
Is extensive.
Yeah, no, it's good. Shouts to Drake and shouts to you for coming back.
Thank you, sir.
Where do we start?
Well, I think this Music Nova Scotia thing is a good thing to talk about.
Let's do it.
When we're talking about narratives here.
Here we go.
So
Who posted this initially? Do you know?
So I saw Swagagenesis.
Yes, that's what I saw too.
What's homeboy's real name?
Nathan,
the man.
Yeah, Nathan Simons.
And I you see a lot of this. You see a lot of.
Shout out to Winter Circle Clothing. That's his company too. So I got you.
Shouts out.
Sure,
All the shouts
Keep
out.
going.
I think it's really hard, and this comes back to our conversation we've had almost before we even started recording, is that there's so much stuff out there, and there's so much things that you would probably like to spend more time paying attention to and caring about, but there's so many things to care about, right? But this one struck me particularly.
You commented on.
I did. This. Yeah, I did. I could read my exact comment.
That'd be dope. It's about. What was it? It was grant applications?
Yes. So Music Nova Scotia takes grants.
Okay.
I don't know. And here's another really important caveat in this.
Okay.
I don't know the full story.
Okay.
And there's always 3 sides to a story.
Yours, mine, and truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Actually, I'm going to get Jay-Z's verse on ignorant shit.
Do it.
Tattooed on my leg. Because that is a verse that I very, very, very much relate to and has taught me a lot in life. And it's the basic gist is actually believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me. And with that said, I will kill dudes dead, chop these dudes short, give them wheels for legs, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But the gist of it is, at the end of the day, there's 3 sides to a story, and you can't believe everything that you hear, especially from an outside source. You know what I mean?
Right.
So at the end of the day, I don't know. Yep. I really don't know.
You don't know shit.
But from the evidence in which I have...
We're speculating.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
And this is factual. The amount of people who applied for grants, and I believe were given grants, that are white versus people of color is like 96% or 124 people who are white.
Right.
And then like 6 people who are people of color.
Yeah, I think it was 90 125 to 5 maybe, or some wild number.
Let's find the exact number right now.
Let's do that.
It's important to be 125 to 5. Very good.
There we go.
Yes. Now, this also says applicants. So, in my opinion, that doesn't mean that they all received grants.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, it's very difficult to say, to even place blame on the number of people who apply for a grant.
Right.
That's not Music Nova Scotia's thing. You know what I mean? Like, if it's only white people applying, how is that necessarily their fault?
Right.
I'm not sure.
Right.
But it's still messed up.
For sure.
It's very, very messed up. So my comment to this was, people of color are widely responsible for the advancement, evolution, and continued growth in all genres of music. Turn on your radio. Now I challenge you to find something not influenced by people of color. It's impossible. Now imagine how much better everything could be if equal opportunity was granted to the individuals at the forefront of music without bias or prejudice. That's the world I want to live in. The last sentence wasn't necessary.
But it sounds good.
Yeah, it just kind of capped things off nicely. But I actually sat down and I thought about that.
Yeah.
You know how like sometimes you'll like some homeboy will write a caption on your photo and it's just like multiple emojis and it's just like, bro.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is something I actually think is and is something that needs to be talked about. Now I'm not going to solve this problem in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
But it's definitely too bad that this is the case. And I think instances like this, where hopefully Music Nova Scotia will see this,
right,
they might think a little bit differently. And that's all you can do. That's all you can challenge people to do is be like, yo, okay, maybe, because we also can't assume that that's on purpose. You know what I mean? Like, and the difference here is that I am a white man and you are a black man. Right. And we've lived different lives based on the color of our skins. Right. So this is from my point of view. And this comes back to what I was saying. There's always 3 sides to a story. Right. Right. So you're going to form your opinion based on the stuff that you've seen throughout your whole life. And I'm going to form my opinion based on the stuff I've seen my whole life, which is usually give people the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. Don't assume that people are trying to be rude or mean or discouraging to certain types of people. Right. But that's also just kind of how I live my life. Yeah. So I'm always going to be like that. So I think that, like, in my opinion, I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt that none of this is on purpose. And hopefully what this does is just kind of enlightens them to that fact and makes them try a little bit harder to encourage people of color to apply for these grants more, and maybe set up workshops or set up something to educate people that these opportunities do exist, and you can search them out as well too.
Yeah, there's always more to this stuff than
meets the eye.
Right. And yeah, but it's easy to it's easy to jump on this is racist.
100%.
And that happens.
Yeah.
And how do people of color objectively look at this situation? Because you can't go against the grain. You can't be the black person that says, no, this is not racist, because who the fuck wants to hear that?
Well, I don't know. Because I'm not in your shoes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you go about doing that.
Right.
And so that's why it's just really hard for me to have any, even like thinking about this now, it's like, should I have even said anything? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. But I think that what I did say is like, you know what? Like, there needs to be more opportunities that are, and I think bias and prejudice might not necessarily even be outward. You know what I mean? Like, it might be purely accidental in a lot of ways.
Right.
So I really don't know.
Yeah, it's hard because there's a lot of factors that come into play in terms of access to information.
Yes.
In terms of, think about all the people in the music industry, and I'm sure they're the shade of similar to yours naturally, if we're sharing information. And this is not even a bad thing, but we're there to support. We're going to support people who look like us or resemble our life experiences. So
see, I can't relate to that person. No, I support anyone.
Tell me more.
I just like, do I look like you?
No.
Do I support you?
Yes.
Here we are.
Okay. So what happens when
I might be an outlier?
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
But I get what you're saying.
Because if we don't, what I posted something the other day about, it was like black businesses don't need grants and extra funding. We just need black people to buy from black people.
Had you watched that Killer Mike thing on Netflix?
Absolutely.
Killer Mike is the man.
Yes, he is. Straight
up.
Absolutely.
He is an incredibly important person in not only just culture, but pop culture.
Right.
And like how he built his own church. Like, I'll go to that church. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, all he's trying to do is like preach positivity and like give you religion exists to create community. Okay. Right? Like, it does so many other things, but basically what it does is it brings people together.
Right.
And in 2019, there's so many other ways to bring people together.
Right.
And that's why religion has not become as predominant as it was when the internet didn't exist. Like, even just like, you know what I mean? 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So you can form communities and you can build these types of things that before you could only build when you were in the church.
Right.
Like, that's how you met people.
Yeah.
Now you can just send someone a direct message who loves shoes. Before you know it, you got like 35 internet sneaker friends who you talk to every single day.
Yeah.
And that's your church right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, as long as they have good morals and good values, like, they're just good friends, and that's the religion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
I like that show because it challenged, I think what it did is it challenged people of color to think about things. And I think it challenged everyone, but I think specifically it made people of color. I looked at it as, okay, well, what excuses are we making that we really don't need to be making, because we've got a lot more that we can actively do to create change.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I look at this Music Nova Scotia situation, in terms of like, I don't really know, but like you said, maybe there's maybe it's not necessarily about race. Maybe it's about something else. Maybe there's something that black people can do better. I'm not saying we're doing anything wrong, but at some point in time, yes, we can blame other people, and that's not to say that other people are wrong.
Yeah.
But there's some level of responsibility and accountability that we must have to come up with some sort of solution. So I think if posting this conversation and
helps
generating
to come to that solution, agreed.
It works.
Agreed. So then if that's like basically the goal, then I think that is probably doing that.
Right.
Like is to bring people, enlighten people on what the situation is and hopefully rectify it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like what I said in my post is so true in terms of where music usually comes from. It comes from people of color, like inherently. Right. And then it will kind of like go through its shifts and morph into whatever it becomes. But like the genesis, the like the starting point of this stuff usually comes from people of color. Right. So imagine this world where like the same opportunities were granted to everybody. Yo, our music would be... That's the thing. I just want to hear fire music.
Listen to Lil Nas X and Billy Ray Cyrus.
I've not heard of this.
Road. You didn't hear...
No, I've seen the memes.
Yes.
But I have not actually consciously gone out of my way to listen to it.
It's a great example of the music industry doing some like really blatant racist shit and then kind of shrugging it off and continuing.
So in my brain, I was just like, wait a second. Nelly made a song with Tim McGraw. Is this different?
Apparently there's not enough country elements in the song to deem it a country song, but it's kind of a country song when Billy Ray Cyrus sings this on the song, but the musical elements didn't really change. They just featured a white country singer.
Interesting. Does it really matter?
In country?
Yeah.
What color of skin you are?
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is like, does it matter what genre of music it is? Like, so again, like for me, if the shit sounds good in my ears, right, I don't care what you call it. Right. Sometimes I find myself in the alternative section of iTunes, right, finding some fire, like Toro y Moi. That's where you find him, in the alternative section or the electronic section. Right. I usually find myself in the hip hop and rap section. Right. But then I branch out and I find this other stuff. It doesn't matter to me what genre it is. Right. I think as human beings, we need to classify things. But as long as it sounds good in my ears, then I'm happy.
I wonder if the country music genre is similar to like the golf collective of like old white dudes who like, this is our club and no one else can really come in.
Like Augusta.
So if you're a little black dude rapping on, rapping about cowboy boots with some twang and a banjo, you want to call it country.
Man, people just fear what they don't understand. People fear what they don't understand. Straight up. That's just human. That's just human. Yeah. And there's nothing you can change about that. That's ingrained deeply in our DNA. Yeah. Some people, like myself, go out of their way to familiarize with their things that they don't see in front of them all the time. Yeah. Like that's why I grew up watching BET. That's why I grew up watching Much Vibe. Right. I was just more interested in that. Like I have an eclectic group of friends that are white, that are black, that are brown, that are Asian. And like, I know that being like exposed to things that are not like what I see all the time has greatly benefited me in my life. Right. Greatly benefited me in my life. But again, I'm an outlier in that sense. Like that was always important to me. And I think my parents put that, like they put that bug in my ear when I was younger. Yeah. That it's just like, just cause like a person is a person. Right. You know what I mean? My mom takes it too far. She's like, I don't see any color. I'm like, Mom, you have eyes.
you can't not see it.
But I get what she's saying and I like the sentiment of it. Right. You know what I mean? Like I like the sentiment of it.
Does she see gender?
Yeah. And I laugh and it's just like, it's such a ridiculous thing. But, and like, that's another thing as well too. Everything is, the lines blur so much and they've been blurring. And I like the blurring of lines. It doesn't bother me at all. Yeah. But the blurring of lines to someone who comes from like a very traditional, probably more so conservative background is just scary. Yeah. It's just like, it's just scary. It's like, what is this? I got no idea. I'm scared.
Pew, pew, swag.
Pew, pew. Not swag. Not swag. You need to get over it. Yeah. And the thing is, it's crazy too, is like as soon as you meet someone who you're like scared of and you realize that they're just a person too. Yeah. And it's like, yo, they're probably going through the exact same like trials, tribulations, trying to figure out stuff just like me. Yeah. But a lot of people, when they're scared of stuff, just isolate themselves from it so that they don't see it. But as soon as it comes in front of you, you're like, there's no difference whatsoever.
Yeah, I gotta eat, breathe, and shit.
Yeah, and listen to fire music. So, anyways, I hope that the grant applications become a little bit more even.
Yeah,
and
let's follow this. We should keep up with this and see what develops, because I feel like none of us know enough to even be talking about this.
Which is a problem.
It's a thing we do.
But that's what we do as humans too. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think that both of us, we've kind of come to a conclusion that, again, we don't necessarily know the full spectrum.
Right.
And it would be better if it was something that was like more equal.
Yeah.
And hopefully that problem will be rectified based on this shedding of light on the current situation that we know.
Let's talk Uniforme.
Oh, Uniforme's a thing?
Tell me about it.
Uniforme Inc. So actually, we spent a really long time. So Uniforme Inc. is...
Do I have to call it Uniforme Inc.?
You don't. So,
but I should?
No, you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
And Uniforme, like getting to a name was a very fun and interesting process.
Okay, tell me about it.
So
talk about it.
We make contemporary workwear, all manufactured in Nova Scotia, Canada.
Okay.
And the story we tell is an interpretation of maritime blue collar. So everything that we do ties back to maritime blue collar. Fortunately, speaking of brand worlds, this is a brand world that is very infinite. There's a lot of different vocations, different stories that we can tell that lends to different garments we can manufacture, that lends to different color palettes that we can explore,
right?
That it lends to different visuals that we can do. And we kind of built the cheat code into the whole thing, and that like it's all right in front of us. So you don't need to go anywhere for your inspiration beyond down the street. Like they're building a new building just outside of my apartment building. And I just like, these guys are right there. Like I'm just watching them, you know what I mean? And I see it. Now I'm not like, I don't work in a blue collar field myself. So it's my interpretation of what this is.
Yeah, how does that work as somebody who doesn't work necessarily in the field in which you're creating the things for certain people? You need
to first accept that you don't, you know what I mean? And you have to be okay with that.
Right.
It's very important, but you can have an opinion and a point of view on the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was recently in Toronto with my business partner, Kevin. Actually, let's just call him my homeboy. My homeboy Kev.
Homeboy Kev.
Who I do Uniforme with.
Yes.
And we went to the Art Gallery of Ontario.
Okay.
And they had a particular whatever you want to call it. I don't even know the art words. It's a gallery of such that's a revolving one. Like I've seen Basquiat there before, which was fire. And then they brought in this I think the style is industrialism. I got to look this up.
Do it.
Can you talk about something while I do this?
Can I? Oh, I can totally talk about the fact that I forgot to tell the people about one of the topics that we were going to mention, because you just mentioned being in Toronto at this Nike thing. Did I say that we were going to talk about that? I feel like I didn't. But I might have, and I might just be filling the space right now, hoping that Jesse will find what he's looking for.
Yeah, so I found the name of the...
Second guess myself?
The exhibition.
The exhibition is called...
So it's Impressionism in the Age of Industry, Monet, Pissarro, and more.
Okay.
So this Impressionism started, I want to say, in the 1800s.
Okay.
When industry was beginning to take shape, and it wasn't cottage industries anymore. It was like larger scale manufacturing in Europe. Okay. So they're starting to get to the point where they have now, like they have full on workforces with automated machinery, and people do very specific things like on a line.
Okay.
And basically the working class became the heroes of this time to the artists. And a lot of the art that they did was around the working class. Like they became like the whole term of like working class heroes. Like that's where it basically came from. Right. So I found it to be very interesting timing that we were in Toronto, like as we had just launched this thing, and this gallery is going on right there.
Yeah.
Because again, as someone who doesn't work in a blue collar field, you feel again like a little bit of an imposter. It's like, yo, how can I tell this story if this isn't what I do? Yeah. But it's also at the same time like I'm a person who's observant and pays attention and like wants to respect what all of that is. It comes from a place of like, this is cool. How do we involve ourselves in this whole thing?
Yeah.
So that was kind of like that was a moment that just it hit in a way where it was like, okay, you're on the right path. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day too, if I think about myself as a human being, a lot of the photo shoots that I do are art directed at this point. And like, I'm building stuff. Like I got a drill, I got a saw, like I make stuff a lot of times. So it might not be what I do professionally all the time, but I have a need for this type of stuff.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
So bringing it back, contemporary workwear, and an interpretation of maritime blue collar. So the name in itself, Uniforme, what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide people with their uniform. So like everyone, as they get like a little bit older, I think when you're like a kid or a teenager, you're kind of exploring and expanding and figuring out how you want to dress. And then you get to a certain point where you have a uniform, like you know how you dress, right? So it's a play on that. A lot of our design decisions are uniform across the board. So for example, we use the same zippers in our hoodie, in our concealed pocket, as we would in our pant. So is
that not normal?
No, it's not.
Okay.
So,
why would you use a whole bunch of different zippers?
Fashion, bro.
Fashion never makes sense.
It doesn't. Yeah. But this isn't fashion. That's the other really important stipulation for us to make. Like, at the end of the day, fashion is the world's second biggest waste industry. So we make clothes, we consume clothes, and then we throw out clothes. And then those clothes don't do anything after that. Like people don't wear them. They're just things that exist in the environment that are not helping the environment. Right. So we don't want to be a fashion company. We want to provide people with like a good that will last them for a long time. Right. That they can probably pair and wear with those things that they might be like consuming that are a little bit more hype. Okay. So you wear a graphic t-shirt. You're probably wearing different graphic t-shirts in 2019 versus the Avarex and Nietzsche.
Oh God.
Fat Farm. Pele, Sean John t-shirts that you were wearing in 2003. So those things are going to change. But I'll tell you this much. In 2003, you probably wanted a surplus camo pant. Right? Yeah. So we got a surplus camo pant because that is a requirement in the uniform.
You're wearing camo pants right now.
They're not my own camo pants. These ones are fuzzier. But at the end of the day, like,
it's a diversity in your uniform.
I literally have 4 pairs of camo pants. Yeah. Like, cause that's what I wear. And like you said, I find the thing that I like and I buy multiples of it. Right. Like if I go look through my closet right now, it's basically like stacks of hoodies. And then there's just like plaid shirts and then camo pants and sweatpants. Like that's what I wear. Yeah. And it's just different versions of basically the exact same thing. Right. So you want to fit in where you have your hype stuff and you can pair it with this stuff that we have. Gotcha. And when we first kind of started, we said to ourselves, we need to be able to outfit someone from top to bottom. Like that's what we need to come out with. Right. And a lot of times you kind of do like low hanging fruit to start. You know what I mean? Like things that are like easily attainable. Like printed t-shirts. I started making printed t-shirts. Like I had a company called J Romaine that I started that's why I'm J Ro on Instagram. Right. It started as J Romaine. I was selling t-shirts under the brand J Romaine. Right. Then I dropped the main and just have the J Ro. Right. And then I started another t-shirt company where we tried to sell t-shirts, printed t-shirts to kids going on grad trips. So we partnered up. Okay. We wrote this pitch. We partnered up with S Trip, who sends like 1 million kids a year on trips. Okay. And we're like, we want to be the exclusive outfitters of your trips. And they said yes.
Of course they did.
Yeah. So the problem fundamentally with that business is that I wanted to give kids highly polished, really nice shirts. And they just wanted shit that says Cancun bitch in a slightly nicer font than what you would get otherwise, right? Yeah. So in my brain, and I couldn't change that. Like I wasn't in it. I wanted to make nice stuff. Right. So it failed. And then like I did that. What else did I do?
You set your bar so high that it failed, essentially. Your quality bar was...
Yes. It was to the wrong consumer. It was to the wrong consumer. Yeah. Like in my brain, and like, this is purely anecdotally, I'm like, these kids want nicer stuff, because I would have wanted nicer stuff as a kid, but I am the outlier in this sense as well too. Yeah. And I'm okay with that.
Interesting.
But I learned from that particular experience. And then since then, like I'm always kind of like have a little project. I'm always making something.
Yeah.
I have to. But this one, it was like Kev I met and we're like, we need to manufacture clothing. Like, to the point where it's like you sit down and you sketch out what you want and you build a tech pack and you articulate how big is the leg opening, how big is like the front of the crotch to like your waist button, like how big are your cargo pockets, like all of this stuff. You articulate all of this stuff. And we went through that whole process. And I am in no way, shape, or form trying to say that like printed t-shirts aren't the thing, because I have a billion of them and I love them. Yeah. Like, absolutely adore them. And I usually wear them with my cargo pants.
Junior Mafia right now.
Oh, exactly. This is actually a dude out of Brooklyn, and he basically did a play on Balenciaga and he called it Brooklyn Siaga.
Okay.
And Junior Mafia is from Brooklyn. Nice. And it has like the whole like tour on the back. It's amazing.
Who makes this?
His name is Lambo Keem.
Shouts to Lambo Keem.
Yeah, we're in it at homies. He's the man. So in my mind and in Kevin's mind, we always wanted to get to a point where we're manufacturing stuff and we can dictate the fit of clothing and we can dictate what the material is.
Right.
But doing that is very time consuming. Yeah. Super time consuming. Printing a t-shirt, I could go to Say It with Stitches and I could print one tomorrow.
Right.
If you have incredible ideas, like Pete has great ideas, like he could tell really cool stories with his t-shirts. You know what I mean? Like, so I've done that. I like doing that. I still do that for myself, like literally one-offs for myself. But for me, there's always been a deep-seated need to be able to like make the clothing from start to finish.
Right. Yeah.
So it's something that, again, coming back to the purpose, is just like, I just need to do that for myself.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Kev too. Like, I've found an amazing friend and an amazing partner who's very much on board with like, this stuff needs to exist. Yeah. Like, we have to make it. Yeah. So our first goal was like, yo, we need to make this stuff. Yeah. So that took us 3 years. that took us straight up 3 years.
Of behind the scenes grinding.
Yeah. And the thing is like, I didn't tell anyone. That's the other important thing for me too. I just want a Uniforme to exist one day and people be like, what the fuck? Yeah. And this is an appropriate time to say the F word. Yes, right? This is my only F-bomb of this whole thing. But like, where did this come from? Yeah. You know what I mean? And almost make it seem like it was just easy and it just showed up. Yeah. So, and that was actually a back and forth that Kevin and I had. And I brought like some people who I know, who I like trust what they're saying. And I was like, should we bring kind of people through the process of us building this brand as we're building it? Like, should we start to do that? Because we started like getting to the point where we have fabric that we need to drop off at a manufacturer. We have a thing where we're getting samples in. Like, there was so many things that happened that we just did not show or tell anyone about. Yeah. Because I think a lot of times people, you remember when there was no Instagram?
Can anybody think back that far?
It was a crazy time. Right. And like, people were aspirational who were celebrities or designers because you didn't really know about them. They didn't share anything with you. You looked at them from this lens. The mystique was insane, right? Yeah. Whereas like now there's a tendency to overshare stuff. Right. And there is no magic. Legit, there's no magic.
None.
But that lack of ability to actually see into the world made you perceive like there was magic. And we wanted to almost kind of just like take a page out of that book and say, okay, let's not share all this stuff. And we can, like, in post-mortem, like now we can start sharing it. And it's actually great content to be like, yo, this was us 2.5 years ago dropping this stuff off. Yeah. But I think that it kind of like gave a little bit more legitimacy to the whole thing, because imagine this, we go see a manufacturer. We think that this is going to be great. And we talked about this beforehand. And a year later, we come out with nothing. If we had started talking about this thing 3 months into this, what do we look like 7 months later when we're coming out empty-handed? We got nothing, right? Yeah. Now, that's part of the business, and that's kind of just the stuff that happens along the way. Yeah. But you spend a lot of time backtracking and explaining things you kind of justifying things. We didn't want to spend any time justifying anything. So fortunately we just kind of kept it hush hush. And then my thing was like, I've built a great network of people on my own personal Instagram,
right,
who I really like and who I respect. And I'm like, I'm going to just like, there's just going to be like, yo, I'm building this thing. And then here's the thing. And then there's the thing. Yeah. And the response was tremendously positive. Yeah. The other thing about Uniforme, there's an E on the end because we're paying homage to the Acadians, who were the first blue collar working class individuals in the province. So Uniforme is actually technically French. Okay. Yeah. But you still read it as Uniforme. Right. But there's also this subconscious belief that things that are French are of higher class. Yes. And are like perceived to be of more value. Yeah. So if we have this like French part added to it, it's kind of like a satire on the whole thing, really. That's the other reason why we use the color yellow. So yellow is perceived as well to be a poor person's color. No frills is yellow. Giant tiger is yellow. Yes. If you go to Dollarama, there's a lot of yellow. It's green, but there's a lot of yellow as well too. Yeah. So we kind of want to like reclaim that color in a way. You know what I mean? Like purple is royalty. It's like, how do we make yellow one of these things that
you change the narrative?
Precisely. So like we basically, and like I said to you too, I just love yellow. Yeah. Like I just straight up love yellow. Yeah. My college portfolio is just all yellow. Like no one would be surprised to see all of this yellow. Yeah. But in branding for power tools or in that blue collar world, there's a lot of yellow. Right. So you get a hard hat, it's yellow. You know what I mean? Like if you want to say caution, here's something, it's yellow. Yeah. Right? If you look at DeWalt, it's yellow. There's just yellow everywhere. Yeah. So it's like, how do you make your brand look like this thing? And how do you have it exist in the ethos that is already there? Yeah. There's a lot of thought, and like that's the thing too, is like people ask me questions and like there's an answer to everything. Yeah. None of it is just a decision, coincidence, for no reason, happenstance. Every single thing is a conscious decision.
What was the most challenging, or even I would say the decision that took the most time in the back and forth process?
Man, I spent a month building like a spreadsheet that has all of our suppliers on it. Like how much does it cost to make a certain garment? Like I have this spreadsheet that is probably like my magnus opus. Is that what you call it? My magna opus or whatever it may be.
That's what it's called today.
Yes. Excellent. So that is the concerto to me. Okay. And it basically breaks down the costs that go into everything. Yeah. So like, for example, you go on there and there's a tab, or not a tab. Well, it's within a tab, but there's a column that's for our pant, and it says material 1. It takes 1.86 meters of this material. It costs this much. I literally have formatted the cell so it does the math for me. Material 2, material 3. So in our pant, in the pockets, there is a mesh, an orange mesh, which ties back to the safety vests that these guys wear when they're on the job. I also kind of like it because it reminds me of ball shorts. So like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like a two-pronged thing, but it's mostly because of the safety vest. So that'd be material number 2. How much material does it take to make these pockets? And then you got your notions, which is like your zippers, and you got your buttons, and then you got your paracord, and then you got your silicone tips. And then in terms of packaging, what does your bag look like? Yeah. What does your floaty keychain look like? What does your washing instructions look like? What do all those things cost?
Those are cool, by the way. The magnet.
Yeah, that was actually, shouts out to my friend Ryan. That was his idea. And he's like, what do any of these symbols mean? And I was like, beats me. He's like, we need to tell people. So I was like, let's do that. And I don't know if you put yours on your washing machine or not, but that's the whole thing.
She said that.
That's where it's supposed to go. Yeah. We're actually going to do a scavenger hunt where we're going to put one in a washing machine and a laundromat in town. Okay. And then we're going to give, if someone can find it, they can get something free.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that's going to be a really fun one.
Better get that ruby red shop coat.
Ruby red shop coat is fire.
It is fire.
They're all fire, but that one is very fire.
That was my pick.
Très Flames. See, that's the French. I'm tying it back.
See?
Always be branding.
Always working, baby.
That's like sales. It's like always be closing. Always be branding. ABB, whatever. I have this spreadsheet that like I spent just like building all that stuff. And then underneath that, it's like, okay, what are our costs to make this? What are our costs of labor? Like, what are our margins on this if we go wholesale? What do we do our MSRP at? Like, what is our percentage of whatever? So doing that kind of stuff, like I didn't start this to be like, yo, I can't wait to do this spreadsheet. But when you care so much, it's just one of the things that you got to do.
Have to.
And it sets us up for infinite success. Yeah. And that's one of the things that we learned throughout this process too, is like, I'm a very patient person to begin with.
Right.
It's like, you have to wait until it's done properly. Mm-hmm. You don't need to rush anything because no one really cares. And once you accept that no one really cares.
We had this conversation.
Who did? We did?
Yeah.
This is a good conversation. I seem to be a broken record, but like, as long as I'm a broken record around the same things, I'm okay with that.
I was excited to do stuff, and you're like, "Why are you doing it? Why are you rushing to put it out? What is the purpose behind it? Have you thought all the way through?" Yes, I remember that conversation. Like, what is it? Why are you doing this? And I was like, you know what? There is no rush to do this.
No. You do it right. Yeah. You do it right, and you set yourself up, and it's more labor intensive, and it's more time consuming, and you discover problems that you never even thought that you would have.
That's what you said. You said, no one knows it's coming out.
Exactly. The only person that knows is like me and Kevin, like a handful of other people.
Yeah.
So no one's sitting there with bated breath being like, yo, where's this thing? Yeah. Where's this thing? As soon as you exist, then people wonder that.
Right.
But you have the luxury of time if you don't exist publicly yet.
Yeah.
So that coming back even to our conversation about like sharing shit on Instagram, like it was very advantageous for us not to have any outward facing stuff while we were building this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because then we can control the narrative better once we have all of our ducks in a row.
Right.
Right. So the whole thing in terms of like the biggest challenge, like the biggest challenge is the whole entire thing. But I love these challenges. They come at me and I'm like, yo, how do I problem solve this thing?
Yeah, that's your thing, eh?
Well, yeah.
Says mom?
Yeah. No, she's right. Like she says you have tunnel vision. Like my mom says this to me, and I never really thought of it this way, but she's like, when you have something that you need to do, you just put your head down and you just do it. Yeah. And you don't complain about it. Yeah. And like, you're actually happy to be doing it. Yeah. It's like, throw on some Selection. I don't know if you ever listen to Selection on Apple Radio. It's this dude, he's got a radio show. His name's Joe K.
Okay.
And he just plays these fire mixes all the time. That's the challenge I have too as an old person now, is like selecting all the music that I want to listen to. Like I could spend a whole day building a playlist and I won't get any work done.
Yeah.
With this dude, I just press play.
Done.
And there's over 400 episodes and they're all fire.
What's this dude's name?
The show's called Soul Action, Soul Action, Ection.
Okay.
His name's Joe K.
Okay.
I preach the gospel of Selection everywhere that I go because it is like Bible music. I can't even explain it. Like it is.
I'm checking it out.
It's incredible.
Y'all should check it out too.
Yeah. Do a link or something.
And let Uncle Jesse know if he's onto something.
I know I'm onto something because I had a very harsh critic recently be like, yo, this is fantastic.
Good. So thank him.
Yes. Not preemptively, but listen first. So like the challenges were many. And there was many times when Nicole, my fiance, shouts out, amazing Nicole.
Yeah.
Always shouts out Nicole. She's the best.
Shouts out Nicole.
She's just like, are you going to stop? And I was like, no, never even crossed my mind. Never even crossed my mind. And all these other things that I had previously done, these other companies, there was like they died. This thing can't die. This is the one that cannot die.
Why not?
Because this is what I need to do. Like, there's just no other option. There's no other option.
When you say need to do,
this is what I need to do with my life. Like this, I feel fulfilled doing this. Like I wake up and I don't think about money. I don't think about anything other than like, what do I need to do to advance this thing that I just love doing that makes me happy? Like I've built a brand world with my friend that I think is really cool and makes me really happy. And coming back to having those parameters for creativity, we built this brand world that we can thrive within, that's unique, that's really, really fun. And we could tell these amazing stories. And people have been like, this is fun. And it like literally encompasses all the skills that I've basically been training for my whole life to be able to use. Like I had this temp job once where I worked at It was Carleton University in the medical department, and they needed someone to consolidate like all of these facts and all this stuff that they had done. They had all these documents, so they needed someone to come in who was prolific in Excel, which I'm not, but clearly I told the temp agency I was.
Of course.
And they needed someone to come in and consolidate these things. And like the job lasted for, I think, like 3 weeks. They kept me on for another like 4 weeks. And I learned like formatting cells, like how do you link to another tab? And like I learned all this stuff.
Yeah.
So doing that, I was like, yo, okay, then I can do this other thing that I need to build
skills
for myself, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like I need to do this. I've been training my whole life to basically have all these things, and never have I've been so confident in like this being able to be successful. But it's just a culmination of all my life experiences at one time. Which
isn't it cool when that happens?
It's crazy. It's crazy. And like I think you need to be able to step back and analyze those life experiences to be able to find the thing that is right for you to be doing.
Do a bunch of shit, stop, survey the shit you've done.
Exactly.
And then wean through what made sense. And
this is such a typical sentiment, but like there's no failure. Like you might, like J. Romaine failed. Student Garment District failed.
Air quotes.
Air quotes. Yes, important to note that I'm air quoting because they're not actually failures.
Right.
They brought me to the point where like I'm here now. And I can use those skills. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I learned branding, and I learned how to brand stuff better. I learned how to pitch stuff better with Student Garment District. And like I'm now more confident in all this kind of stuff. Like I went to school and I learned, now I can put together a whole tech pack that I can articulate exactly what I want to somebody who's going to manufacture my goods. So the manufacturer that we have now, they're awesome. They're fantastic. It's also really cool to be able to do this stuff in Nova Scotia. Yeah. But we went in there with a document that said like, this is the material. This is the inspiration behind this. It's like a tech pack that literally has every measurement on it. How do you guys do the seams? Because there's multiple. There's like flat felled seams. There's serging. There's so many different things. And we articulated everything. So they come in and like I'm sure they say people all the time who come in there and be like with like a napkin. It's like, yo, can you make this jersey for me? You know what I mean? Or like, can you make this jacket for me or whatever it may be? And those people are disappointed. They're like, they wouldn't take a shot on me. It's like, no, that's not their job. Your job is to have them be confident that you know what you're doing, right? And be like a good client for them that makes sense, right? So this company that makes stuff, like they make all of the work pants for Sobeys, like nationally. You know what I mean? They're making our stuff now too, because we were able to go in there and articulate exactly what we wanted in a reasonable manner, have reasonable timelines, and be someone that's worth working with. And that takes time.
Talk about your price point.
It's expensive.
How much does a hoodie cost?
$224.
How does that work?
Okay, so in terms of material itself, it's a very, very, very thick French terry that's dyed and milled in Canada. So as soon as you're doing that, your prices are higher. Right. Now,
dyed and milled.
Yeah. So milled. So basically the material in which we're using in our hoodies it starts as just thread, and then it gets milled like on a machine. Right. And it's to the specifications of exactly what we want. Okay. So like the hoodie that you're wearing right now, one of Pete's hoodies.
Yeah. Shouts to Beasley.
Yeah. That would be a blank hoodie. And that would probably be, and because they're making so many of them. Right. The price goes down substantially, right? So it's just like simple economics there. And then because of the material selection, which is not like, it's not, our hoodie is not a stock material. Like it's not something you could go to people who make like cottons, 100% organic cottons. You can go to them and you can be like, can I buy this, like this roll from you? And they'll say, sure. But that's what they're using on all the other hoodies. Okay. And for us, we're like, what is the problem with hoodies? And everyone likes a thicker hoodie, straight up. Like the thicker it is, that's the purpose of it. Right. And like the other thing too is like, if we're solving problems, it has to be also something that someone can work in. So someone can work in this. You know what I mean? Like Kev's best friend, Kevin, is an HVAC guy. That's what he does. So he works hard every day.
HVAC.
Yes. it's like, I'm not even 100% sure. I just say HVAC, and I hope no one actually like questions me. But
he works hard though.
He works mad hard, and he sent photos to Kev. He's been wearing all of his stuff. Yeah. Stood up. It's amazing. Yeah. Like it's doing what it needs to do, right? So you can have someone actually working this stuff. You can have someone wearing it in a fashion way, or you can kind of have like your weekend warrior guy who's like, okay, I want to throw in the shop coat that is like something I can wear and actually protect me while I'm working, right? But it's also fashionable. So
for sure.
So it kind of straddles the line of both of those things. Okay. But price point wise, so you can get that stock fabric and you're looking at a certain amount, but when you're going out of your way to mill it, get your own color palettes, like your own Pantones, it goes up in price. Right. 3-4 times, right? That becomes expensive. Okay. Manufacturing it in Canada makes it 3-4 times more expensive. Right. Straight up. So you're getting your material in Canada, you're manufacturing it in Canada. You've already increased your own production costs at least 4 times what you would probably 3 or 4 times what you would if you were to do it overseas with overseas fabrics. Okay. So our margins are incredibly reasonable. Like on some of our stuff, our margins aren't even 100%. And like your margins when you make something should be 200%. So you can sell it at wholesale and then you can sell direct to consumer and make a little bit more money, right? Right. Like our t-shirt margins are not even 100% because we can't justify selling a t-shirt for more than $64.18. Also, everything's 4.18 because this collection is called UNI 418, which stands for Unique Numerical Identifier 418, because it was supposed to drop in the 4th season, winter of 2018. And the reason why we did this, rather than calling it like 001, is because everyone calls it 001 if it's their first collection. Right. And we wanted to really take kind of like the style of code that exists on like shipping containers, or it exists within the blue collar, and have our own kind of unique like way of identifying this whole thing. The irony in this whole thing is that we ended up dropping it in 119. We ended up dropping it in like the winter of 2019. But you know what? All construction projects are always delayed anyways. So it's a funny joke. It works. At first we were like, man, this sucks, because we got all these stickers printed that we put on our packaging that says UNI 418. We're like, uh-oh, this isn't going to be dropping 418. Then we're like, oh, well, that's what happens anyways with all this construction stuff. So it's kind of a funny inside joke anyways. Nice. So that's what kind of dictates the price point for us. Okay. And it's not accessible to everyone. And we totally understand that. That's the thing about clothes as well, too. Clothes are so personal. You know what I mean? Like for me to make clothes and to just assume that because I know you, that you're going to then buy my stuff is absurd. It's straight up absurd.
Expectations.
Yes. I'm so incredibly thankful if anyone buys anything from us. Yeah. Because what they're doing is that they're inviting us onto their body, which they wear all the time. Yeah. And they're basically saying like, I'm willing to put my money towards something that you have created, and I'm going to be interacting with it at all times. Right. So for me, like my personal clothing tastes and fashion tastes are so, to myself, personal. Like they're so incredibly personal. So you launch a brand and it's a bunch of stuff that doesn't fit within my uniform, I'm not going to buy it. Right. I will buy probably something, you know what I mean? And that's why we sold so many toques right off the bat, because it's the lowest hanging fruit. Like it's like, you all want to support you and we appreciate the support. That's incredible. And that's why we offered up a toque for sale, because it's like, it's something that is tangible, that's easy to get your hands on.
Mike Tanner has the green one.
Yes, he does. Yep. He absolutely 100% does. I have
the green one too.
There we go. Yeah. That was a fan favorite. A little bit more than the black one. But it's really important to kind of, like you said, set your expectations at a reasonable level. Yeah. Appreciate the patronage that you get from everybody or anybody, and accept that fashion is so personal. And if it doesn't fit within your realm, you don't need to buy it, and just keep it moving and just like be like, yo, I love your brand. That's cool. And that's great. That's amazing. Yeah. That's more than I could ever ask for. Yeah. But the next step for us is like, once we've kind of exhausted our friends and fam network, which we kind of have at this point, was how can we get this to a wider fashion conscious audience?
Right.
So
you were in Toronto for some of that work, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, nice segue.
That was maybe on purpose. I'm not totally sure. But when we first launched, super exciting. And the first person to buy anything from us was my friend Curtis. So
shouts to Curtis.
Curtis is basically, if my life wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for Curtis. But Curtis works at Nike.
Okay.
So Curtis is the homie. And back when I graduated from college, I got an internship at this agency called Trevor Peter that was doing work with Nike.
Okay.
I was there for 3 months and I just developed a good relationship with Curtis. And like 5 years later, I was actually in Toronto. I was at the baseball game with the Trevor Peter squad. Okay. 5 years later, after having spent 3 months only in this internship, and they're like, "You want a free ticket? Come hang out with us." Yeah. So this is not off point. And actually, I'm going to end up talking about this on my own personal Instagram, because I'm sure people probably watched what I was doing in Toronto. I was like, how the fuck? Sorry again for the fuck, but that was an appropriate time again. How did this guy get there? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, how? And it's a very legitimate question. I would be wondering the same thing too. It's like, and I always like, I see my homies with like particular opportunity. I was like, how does that happen? Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, people probably look at my career and they're like, how does that happen? Yeah. Because like, beyond Uniforme, I make my money taking pictures of shoes. Right. It's the strangest, most niche profession to ever exist. Yeah. And there's only so few people in the world that can actually do that thing. But it's all relationships. It's all relationships. Yeah. And people are just like, and that's all it comes down to. You need to develop genuine relationships with people and really focus on the word genuine. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I'll have people hit me up even, and it's just, you can tell it's disingenuous. It's not real. Yeah. And like, I talk to Curtis all the time about sneakers, about life. Like, I tell him big news in my life. He tells me big news in his, because we're friends. Yeah. It's like, someone will send me a pair of shoes, mostly Curtis. They're worth a lot of money. Right. I don't even know this. People will tell me they're worth a lot of money. I'm like, this is great. I love this shoe. It doesn't matter. Like, why are you wearing the shoe? I'm like, because it's a shoe and I have feet. And like, I need to, like, I want to look down and be like, yo, that's people are like, why do you like shoes so much? Just so I can look down and be like, that is amazing. That just looks incredible. Pew, pew. Swag. Pew, pew, very swag. Yes. So basically, like, he's the guy who provides me with all that kind of stuff. And I'm forever grateful and forever thankful. And he knows that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I liken it to when it's Christmas Day and you're just walking down the street. No stranger's just going to give you a gift. Your family gives you gifts. Right. Your friends give you gifts. Yeah. These are gifts. You know what I mean? Like, these types of things, they're happy to provide them for you in your life because there's a mutual love. There's a mutual respect. Right. And that's kind of the attitude of a lot of people. It's just like, just give me free shit. But if you don't have a relationship with somebody, why do they got to give you free shit? Yeah. They don't. Yeah. So that's the thing, like, relationships. Yeah. So speaking of this relationship, Curtis, I'd been talking to him for like, he was one of the people who knew about it before it existed. Okay. You know what I mean? He's like, I want to be the first order. So I told him, and he placed the first order. He was so hyped. But he gives me some gifts, and I, in conjunction, will give him some gifts. For sure. So he pays for a couple things. He gets a couple things for free. But one of the things he bought a wheat shop coat. Oh, yeah, it's good. That's the only shop coat I have. I don't have any other colors. That one's cold too. It's good. It's just like, I saw some Timberlands when I walked in the door here. Yeah. That was basically like, how do we make a Timberland colored coat? So that was where that came from. Okay. But he wanted to be the first order. So he's the first order. He's hype. Nice. Everyone's hype. Yes. The hypeness is just real. It's radiating.
Didn't you get put on to something? You got some mentions today? Didn't you say that earlier?
Oh, yeah. I got an email today about a couple projects that I shot that just got features on Hypebeast and High Snobiety, which is pretty crazy. Yeah. Like in the run of the day to receive an email. And like 3 years ago, and it's still crazy to me.
Yeah.
It's still crazy to me because what got me to where I'm at right now was actually 2 hypebeast features on my Jordan pictures.
Okay.
So they just picked those up, and at the same time, Reebok was looking for new people. Right. And they sent me an email, and that's kind of how that whole thing happened. Yeah. I still vividly remember, like, I was taking a poop at work, as I did, because I needed to kill time. Yeah. So I didn't want to be at my desk. I didn't hate my job, but, like, I extended my poops. Anyways, I open up my phone, and I'm sitting on the toilet, and, like, my shit... Because nowadays, like, when you get tagged on something, it doesn't reverberate the same way as it did 3 years ago. Okay. Yeah. Like, I got this hypebeast feature, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And that day I must have got like 300, 400 followers. Now I'll get a feature on hypebeast. I haven't had one recently, but I had a couple on High Snobiety. I did this Nike logo flip on the IKEA. Yes. And that made its rounds around the internet.
Yes, I remember that.
And like that did pretty well for me. But at the time, like 3 years ago, it's like people would just like see something and they just follow the people. Now people are a little bit more conscious consumers of who they're following. Right. So it's pretty crazy that today I get an email from my homie Steve at Reebok. Again, I say homie because he is my friend and he works at Reebok. Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, we got a couple placements on High Snobiety and Hypebeast for pictures that you took." I'm like, this is crazy. Yeah. It still blows my mind. Yeah. It still blows my mind. And
congrats.
Thanks, bro. Yeah. It's very cool to be able to like have that work, really enjoy that work, and then have built another thing for myself to do that I really, really love doing. Yeah. I gotta pee.
Jesse's gotta pee. Intermission, BRB. We're just talking about Nike and relationships and Curtis.
Yeah. Yeah. We were also talking about Steve. Steve's the other relationship at Reebok. I actually just got a direct message from my friend John.
Okay.
It's like, the shoes we've been talking about you really want? I'll be sending those to you. So that's pretty cool.
Relationships, baby.
That's all it comes down to.
Pays off.
I literally have a list of things on my desk, beside my desk, of like what I need to talk about and what I want to talk about. Okay. And that's one of them. That's the main point.
Relationships.
That's the main takeaway. And like, I know I feel like I'm beleaguering this point also because I forget exactly what we're talking about because I just went to the bathroom. Yeah. But that's a very important point in the whole scheme of things. Genuine, real relationships will get you where you want to go and where you need to be. That's what brought me to Toronto.
Right.
So actually, this is where I was going to go with all of this.
Do it.
Curtis is wearing a shop coat. Puts a shop coat on. Looks great. Puts a little picture up on his stories. He's like, "Hey, this is my cool new Uniforme shop coat. You should get one." And I'm sitting there. I'm like, people should get one.
Is this the elevator selfie?
You seen that?
Of course I did.
Wow. Yeah. Is that what kind of like spurred you to make a little bit of a buying decision?
I was getting mine regardless.
Okay, gotcha.
It didn't matter, but I saw that wheat one and I was like,
man, this is cool.
Yeah.
So he does that, and then he gets a message from this dude named John. And John's like, "What is this stuff?" And they end up chatting about it. I'm not even doing anything at this point. Like I'm probably taking a nap. Take a nap every day for 20 minutes. Taking a nap. And then Curtis sends me a message. He goes, "Hey man, I was just talking to my friend John." I was like, "Who's John?" He goes, "John owns Lost and Found, which is a store in Toronto on Ossington Street." And they go, "Oh, cool. That's a cool store." And he proceeds to go, he goes, "He really likes Uniforme. Should I set up a meeting?" And I said, "Yes, you should."
Expeditiously.
Yes, expeditiously. Yes. Precisely. So, shouts out T.I. for using that word.
Shouts out T.I.
You know he used that word when he was talking about Kodak Black?
We don't want to talk about Kodak Black.
We don't need to do that. But what he goes...
Get him out of here.
He goes, "You need to check yourself. Expeditiously." I was
he
like,
did say that.
Oh my God, that was so amazing. And I was like, that's why T.I. is the GOAT.
Yeah. King of the South.
It's like Rubber Band Man, wild as the Taliban.
9 in my right.
45 in my other hand.
Pew pew flag.
We are old. But he sets up this thing and it's great. And we're going to Toronto. I'm in Toronto because I'm actually working. Yeah. So the event that I attended was for Air Max Day. Air Max Day landed on Tuesday this year.
That shit looks so cool.
It was so fun, man. Yeah. It was incredibly fun, and I'm just so grateful to have been a part of it. Like, incredibly blessed. Not anything that I ever expected that I'd be doing. Yeah. Again, expectations are not that I'm going to be doing that. And as soon as you get given an opportunity, you appreciate it so much more if you're just like, wow. So this year, the 720 comes out, and the 720 is a very polarizing shoe. Why? The design of it is very futuristic, and the air bubble is insane. Like, I'm 6'1". When I put these on, I'm 6'3". Like, it is a tall shoe. Okay. It's the biggest air bubble they've ever put on a shoe. Okay. So the concept is the department of the unimaginable. And the idea behind that is simply airbags were created and put in as visible air in 1989, 30 years ago. Okay. That was a crazy idea at that time. Okay. Now imagine at that time, someone had thought of putting an even bigger air bubble like the 720. It's unimaginable that the air bubble would go through the osmosis to become what it is now. It's unimaginable. Right. So let's tell that story. Let's do unimaginable things. Let's encourage people to be creative, free thinking. There's parameters, but there's not parameters. You know what I mean? Gotcha. Creativity is infinite at this particular point, which is very, very cool. So Curtis again calls me and he's like, do you want to do this? I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah. This is like 2 months ago. So all the cards fall and this figures itself out. And that's what I was originally in Toronto for. But I was like, yo, if we're here, we may as well make a trip of it. For sure. Do some other thing, meet some homies, really, really kind of like continue to stroke those relationships. Yeah. And I don't mean that in like a inappropriate stroke way or like, I don't care about you, but like actually like meet people who I know online very well and like meet them in real life. Cause like there's a community of sneaker people. There's a little one in Halifax. There's a huge one in Toronto. Right. So go there, meet all these people, be a part of this amazing event that is super, super fun. My job was simply to help facilitate this workshop as someone who knows sneakers and tinkers with sneakers on their own. So people were given a shoe form and they were just given in like a ton of different materials and they could do whatever they want. Shoe form. So it's basically like a wire frame, like picture like a chicken coop material that's in the shape of a shoe. And then you can do whatever you want with it. Like there's air bubbles, like not air bubbles, like bubble wrap. There's paracord. There's feathers. There's like everything that you could possibly imagine. Yeah. A couple of really cool takeaways is that one of 60 people who did it, not one single shoe was the same. Everyone has access to the same things. Right. Everyone makes something completely different. That is really cool. Right. The other really, really big takeaway from my point of view was that everyone who was there is a grown up. They're a grown up in some capacity, right? Yeah. None of them were spending time on their phone. None of them were distracted with other things. They were basically doing arts and crafts for an hour and a half without distraction. And there is no other time in life now when you have your job, when you have your whatever, where you're just doing something fun and creative, just to do something fun and creative with really no purpose other than to like explore your creativity. Yeah. And people gravitated towards it. People loved it. And people were like, you know what? I think I need to make more time in my life to do this kind of stuff. So that was really, really, really cool to see. And I think for Nike doesn't, like Nike's Nike. You know what I mean? Yeah. And a lot of the people who are there are Nike heads, of course. Yeah. But they, like, the amount of positive sentiment towards a brand that they already love is just, it's just bigger. It just grows bigger. You know what I mean? And like, it's the brand that now people associate with their fun. Like they're the ones who helped me come to this conclusion that I want to have fun like this. So that's a big victory for them. And like, you might not see sales immediately from that, but you're going to see sales like down the road. You're going to have a customer for life. Right. So if you can provide those experiences, and that's even like, again, coming back to like what you can learn all the time and then put towards your own thing, take that into consideration for Uniforme. Yeah. How do we facilitate an experience like that for people so that they're like, yo, I love Uniforme now. Like I will ride or die for this brand. So that was, and I actually haven't articulated that out loud, that's something that we can take away and use in our brand, until I kind of just connected the dots talking to you right now.
Yeah.
But that's what I was there for.
Right.
Make the most of it. We have some kind of ongoing issues with procurement of fabrics. The supply chain is challenging.
Okay.
And we're like, okay, well, we're going to kind of like the mecca of where stuff is.
Right.
Let's see what we can get our hands on. Let's see what we can do in person. Because you can do so much via email, via phone, but like if you're in person, and it expedited a lot of stuff for us. Sure, it's really, really good. We came to some conclusions on what we want to do moving forward. We have been thinking a lot about making stuff and then finding the material to make it. And now we're finding the material and then making stuff out of that.
Gotcha.
What's available to us. We're not at a point right now where we have the infrastructure to be able to procure thousands upon thousands of meters of fabric. So instead you have to think differently.
Right.
And you have to change your train of thought. And like, we learned that while we were there that week. We have access to a particular material that we're going to be able to get at a price that is like more reduced than previously.
Right.
So what can we do with that kind of stuff?
Right.
So it's like, it was great for that type of learning. And then while we were there, we ended up meeting up with this dude who owns Lost and Found, and they love Uniforme, which is amazing. And they're going to be placing an order, and we're going to get our stuff in that store starting in the fall of this year. Thank you. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you're really good at coughing out of the mic. I clearly haven't like figured that part out.
Practice a few times.
Yeah, I can imagine. So they're going to carry the line, which in itself is like an incredible feeling. Yeah. But coming back to our other point about people who want to consume fashion, they have an audience of people who consume fashion, and that's where they go to consume their fashion.
Right.
So we've exhausted the network, the personal network. It's not exhausted, you know what I mean? But like, we've done a good job of having people that we know that we're doing this thing. Right. Now, how do we scale it, and how do we get it to more people? And having a company or a store with clout in the industry, right, co-sign you is incredible. Yeah. You need that. Yeah. When you're nothing, like, you know what I mean? Like when you're absolutely nothing but a dream and an idea. Yeah. If somebody else has an ability to extend an olive branch and lend you credibility, you need to nurture that. For sure. You know what I mean? So the fact that they did that is amazing. And I'd been preaching to Kev and to anyone that listens to me that we just need that one cosign. And then we could do the rest. Yeah. Because then we can have a stockist and we could say our stuff is sold here. And people are like, yo, that store's legit. And then they say, oh, then this brand must be legit. Right. And then it just snowballs from there. Right. So while we're there, we got our shop coats, and this girl, Chris, she's really sweet. They had just been in Japan, and she tries on the shop coat and she goes, people would love this in Japan. And we're like, good. Yeah. Because with our branding, the idea was, rather than calling it an interpretation of Halifax blue collar or Nova Scotia blue collar, Maritime is global.
I remember you telling me this.
Maritime, there's maritime industry.
Yeah, what does maritime mean?
Maritime just means water. Maritime, like we call like the Maritimes because they're surrounded by water. Right. Right? So maritime industry exists in Scandinavia. It exists in Austria. Mm-hmm. It exists in Japan. Mm-hmm. It exists in Australia. It exists everywhere. So rather than pigeonholing ourselves to this particular geographic setting, right, we have created something that is understood globally. We can only tell our own current geographic story now, right? But as we grow, and let's say we do get into a market like Japan, because there is crossover, then maybe we tell a Japanese workwear story, maritime Japanese workwear story. Yeah. You know what I mean? Wow. So. And that comes from watching other brands from this city develop out, not even just from this city, but from like Toronto or from LA or from New York. Right. Like there's a brand called Only NY, and it's consumed. It's a well-made brand by like guys like me, but it is very geographically specific to New York. It's called Only NY. Like, so, we didn't want to place ourselves in that box. So it took us like the simple saying and interpretation of maritime blue collar. That was 1.5 years in the works.
Right.
Like that did not just like, that was like a lot of thought to create this very simple sentiment that is, it's the box you live in, but it's like the biggest box you've ever created in your life.
Right. It's still macro.
It's so macro, but it's so specific too.
Right.
So I'm like, I think creatively, like I'm proud of the things that I've done in my life. I think creating that is the thing that I'm most proud of because I think that it's created opportunity that's ongoing for myself to build something that I really like. Yeah. So anyways, Lost and Found, that was really fantastic. Getting that particular like thing is really still mind-boggling. Like we sent out our line sheet for the first time today. Like here's our line sheet. Like what do you want to buy? This is bananas to me. You know what I mean?
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's a big deal.
It is. It's very, very exciting. That all also comes down to my relationship with Curtis. You know what I mean? So it all comes back to just like take any opportunity to develop a relationship, a genuine relationship, and you have no idea how that's going to like unfold in front of you. You have no idea. Yeah. So relationships, très important.
How did you build a relationship with Cashmere?
I actually didn't have a relationship, but I had a relationship with Andy Hines. Right. So Andy and I have only met like a handful of times, but he's great at what he does. Yeah. And he's always been very encouraging towards me about doing what I do and staying in Nova Scotia. Like he's just like, I'm so happy you're doing what you do here. I'm so happy you're doing what you do here. Yeah. Because he's in LA. He left and he went to LA. Right. You know what I mean? And he looks at me and he goes, yo, this guy's able to work with these particular brands locally. Right. And that's cool. Yeah. Like that might have been, I'm not saying it was his dream, but it's probably something he's like, yo, I would like to be able to do that. Right. So with that in mind, the remix project, which that's, I'm assuming what the segue is about.
Yeah, Cashmere and the remix project, which we CTN will be moderating the panel discussions.
Wow. Who's on the panel?
I don't know if they finalized that yet. Okay. We'll be part of that, and you'll be there doing some work as well. What are you doing?
So I will be doing a workshop.
Okay. The remix project, May 11th and 12th. It's online. Check out Cashmere's Instagram.
Yeah, she's got a link. The remix project now also has a link in their bio directly to the registration. So Cashmere hit me up because she was like, we need people who work in the industry, because that's one of the biggest things about the industry, about remix too. And I'm a huge fan of remix. I've known about remix before she even hollered.
Okay, so hold on. What is remix?
So remix is an alternative arts program. It's a school. Okay. If you want to make music, if you want to be a DJ, if you want to be a video producer, if you want to be a photographer, this is the school that you go to. Okay. It's not a traditional education. It's not like going to university where you need to take electives and you need to take a particular major. It is a lot more practical. Okay. It's basically vocational training. Okay. But for cool shit. Right. Like if I was like when I by chance become a dad, I will send my youngster to a school like this. Sure, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like they offer programs that are hands-on. They teach you about the types of things that you probably really want to do, but you can't find in university, you can't find in college. Yeah. And the other thing that's really important too is they have teachers, professors if you want to call them, who still work in the industry. Right. So one of the other fundamental flaws with traditional education is that like you become a tenured professor, you don't have to work in the industry anymore. You become irrelevant very quickly. Right. Like you don't keep up with your skill set, and traditional education has not evolved at the same pace as work has kind of like evolved. Like education's like this, I'm drawing a flat line. Yeah. And then the workforce is just like it's just so fast. It moves so fast with like technology.
Jobs changing
all the time. Like you hear that all the time. It's like jobs changing, blah, 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 blah. Education does not keep up with that. Right. And the problem with one of the fundamental flaws in the reasoning that that's the case is that the teachers are not relevant in their industry anymore. So to be a teacher at this school, you need to be a working professional.
Gotcha.
So you can't just do that.
Okay.
You have to have a supplementary. You have to do your job.
Right.
And this is almost like the supplementary thing that you do.
Right.
And actually coming back to our point about kind of like feeling like the Nipsey Hussle philanthropist point.
Right.
In the frivolousness of the job that I do, I want to be able to give back to kids in some capacity.
Right.
And I think I could teach them something.
Yeah.
And I think they're more likely going to listen to something from a guy who looks like me rather than old man Riggles.
Right.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like old man Riggles was probably giving the exact same message, but he's not doing the stuff, you know what I mean, that I'm doing. He's not aspirational. He's not in it. Yeah. So his message is just going to kind of go over kids' heads, right? So Remix Project, I came in contact first when I was at Humber and I graduated, and one of my teachers is now a mentor full-time at the Remix Project in Toronto. His name is Brian Brock. He's the man. I saw him when I was in Toronto too. Nice. It was literally like I literally saw every person that I know.
Good.
There was not a moment where I was not doing something that was like advancing something. So I went in, I talked to him, and I was just like, Brian, number one, you're the man. Because of you, I have an inclination towards teaching. Because I was at school and he was in the field. Like Brian is the creative director for Division, like the band Division. Like he does all of the creative direction for them. Right. Like shot their most recent album cover. Yeah. Like he was going from a meeting with me to a meeting with this dude's. Right. You know what I mean? These dudes, sorry. He's in it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he started One Love TO. He works with Keys and Crates. Like he's in it. Yeah. And I knew that when I was at school, and I was like, that's why I'm listening to this guy. That's why I'm listening to this guy. He's doing it. He's not just talking about it. He's doing it. I get so sick and tired of someone being like, this is how you need to do something. I was like, have you ever done that? No, but this is how you must do it. The proof is in the pudding in this case. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what makes Remix so valuable is the proof is in the pudding. Right. So I have always looked up to that program, and so I was doing some work with Brock after I graduated with One Love TO, which is like a blog that he ran. And we developed like a relationship beyond just like being at school. And then I came here and I live here now full time, whatever. But I always been like, Remix is amazing. And then a part of me was like, I want to teach. I just want to teach. Yeah. And I've been telling Nicole this. I was like, I want to teach. And I was like, is it NSCC or is it NASCAR? I have no idea where it's going to be. Yeah. And then when Casimir sends me an email, she's like, yo, we're coming to Halifax. Yeah. We're doing this pilot project. Do you want to be involved in some capacity? Yes, absolutely. Sign me up. So we ended up spending an hour and a half on the phone, just talking about everything. Yeah. And through that conversation, I learned that one, the program is more so for underprivileged youth. So it's on a case by case basis who ends up getting into the program. So she was telling me that there's usually like 60 to 70 positions, let's just say. That's the rough number of people who actually are in do a semester or a year or whatever of this program. Okay. They get 800 applicants. Yeesh. Right? So they get a lot of applicants. Wow, yeah. So it's popular. Right. And they get kids who apply from Australia. They get kids who apply globally to this thing. But they get most of their applicants within Canada from either Vancouver, like the West Coast, or from Halifax. They get a lot of applicants from our neck of the woods. So they've been to Vancouver. They went to Vancouver in November. It went great. And now they're setting this one up here in Halifax. Nice. Which I'm super excited to be involved. So when she was like, I was like, this is just perfect timing. Yeah. And Nipsey had not yet passed before she talked to me. And then as soon as I happened, I was like, this has I need that needs to you can feel it, eh? That's how I can give back. I know that's how I can give back. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the thing that I do professionally, again, shoot photography, is very frivolous, and I accept that. Yeah. I'm okay with that. But there needs to be a part of me that gives back in some capacity, like the knowledge that I've gained from doing this thing that I'm good at, so that I can bestow it upon other people. Right. They can then have some knowledge, and they can find the thing that they like and that they have purpose for.
What's the point of hoarding information?
There's none. There's literally none. Well, it's funny you actually say that, because when I was in Toronto, I also went on this other web series called The Sample Effect. Okay. With my friend Anna and my friend Christina. Okay. Both sneaker girls, very cool. Really like both of them.
Keep going. Oh, you drink water now. Time 1:45. Thank you.
Okay, so they developed this web series called The Sample Effect, and they bring on people to just talk about, most of it is like niche stuff like myself. Okay. And it's to kind of like dispel some myths that people might have about like how people got into these particular positions. How did that work out? But then part of it is like you need to teach how you do something to their audience. So there's a tutorial aspect. And my tutorial was like, how do you make basically like a shoe float?
Yeah, those fucking pictures are crazy.
Right? Yeah. So it's like, how do you make a shoe float? I didn't invent this technique.
Sorry, Mama, just cursed.
Yeah. There's only been like a handful of efforts, so I think we're doing pretty well.
We're good.
I did not invent that technique.
Right.
I did not. It's not proprietary to me. I use my own style. I use my own 3%. That's also one of my things too, is like, what's your 3%? Everything's been done a million times. How do you make it 3% different? How do you make it 3% yours? That's a manageable percentage. If you're aiming at 15%, you're probably going to be overwhelmed, right? And you're going to fail miserably. But how do you inject your own 3%? So I've fortunately developed my own style of photography that is my 3%.
We need to talk to people. We need people to grasp this 3% concept, because this is interesting.
It's one of the most important concepts of kind of my last couple of years too. It's very simple. Yeah. Nothing is new under the sun. Yeah. Nothing is new under the sun.
We all think we've done some shit that's never been done before.
You haven't. You haven't. But you can make it your own by using your own collective life experiences to make it inherently you. You know what I mean? Like my 3% now, I know is like I can manipulate photos to a point where like there's something mysterious, interesting about it that's like not what you would normally see. It's a lot of vibrant colors. Yeah. And then there's like some other elements in there that I like to make a little bit playful, a little bit goofy. Like that's, if I was to actually say who I am as a person, that's what my photos have become. You know what I mean? Like there's no disconnect really. I'm not trying to take something that isn't inherently me. Right. And that's why it connects in that way. So the 3% thing is huge. And actually we could probably go off on a whole tangent about that thing. Yeah. And I didn't come up with that either. Yeah. I didn't come up with that concept. There's a concept that I read from Virgil Abloh, who's now like, he's the guy. Yeah. And I was like, if this guy's the guy, I could probably learn a lot from this guy. Things, eh? Yeah. So he taught me that whole concept, and I preach that gospel now for sure. And if you accept that nothing new is under the sun, and you accept that you can only do 3% different of what's there, and you find whatever that is, you can find a really good sweet spot for yourself. So I'm on this web show with these girls, get to my tutorial thing, and I have a screen shared video of me going through the process of removing. I was in there. They have this amazing set. Kev's there with me. Yeah. And he's wearing a pair of Nigel Sylvester Jordan ones. They look fire. We're like, let's get a picture of these. Yeah. Pull a stool out, and then I ended up resting them on this spray bottle, like just like a little spray bottle. Yeah. So you could look at the original picture. It's got a spray bottle in it, but I have this technique with like clone stamps tool and just like the healing brush tool where I can take that bottle out and it just looks like it's on his toe. Yeah. And like the sample effects in the backdrop is just this like nice little picture, right? And I'm walking people through how exactly I did this thing that makes it inherently mine. I just showed people how to do it. And I'll probably put the video on my Instagram of how I do it. Yeah. Because I'm not hoarding that information. Right. Because I didn't invent that. Right. Someone else did that before me. Yeah. And I took that information from them. And me learning that information from them brought me to where I am now. Yep. So it's almost my duty to share that with people. And just because I'm sharing, and it's not my secret sauce, but like the secret that I have, it does not mean that someone's just going to take my position. Right. Because I've built those relationships. Right. I got nothing to worry about. Right. So I think in like the fact that you're involved in this remix thing is cool too. Like I think that the whole group that they've brought around is really great. My particular talk will be about photography, but I still haven't written my syllabus yet.
Yeah.
Like I'm still like Kaz and I talked, and like the reality is like no one's showing up there with a DSLR. So we're going to do some around your iPhone. Right. I'm also very adamant that like the best tool is the tool that's in front of you. Mm-hmm. If you spend your whole time being like, oh, I need this thing to do this, you've already lost. Yep. So it's almost going to be like, how do we take the life that you're already living and how do we inject more visual creativity into it that's natural for you and that you can share through your social medias? That's basically what it's going to be. And I think it's like a primer to what this course could be. I think it kind of fits within that mold quite nicely. I'm very excited.
That just sounds cool.
I think so. And like once it gets refined a little bit more, and I'm going to talk about shit like your 3%. I'm going to talk about like there's no cheat code. Like, you know, my observations that I do on my Instagram. Yep. I love doing those. Yeah. I'm just going to go through those and be like, oh, I could talk about this. I could talk about this. I could talk about this. Because a lot of them pertain to my professional life and they're lessons that I've learned through the last like little while of doing what I've been doing. It's like my journal.
Yeah, they're really cool. And they just come from something happened and I got to share this message and you share it with the people. How do you say it in French?
Observation du jour.
It's a nice accent.
Merci beaucoup. Je peux parler français un peu?
Très bien, monsieur.
Hey.
That's it. Don't ask for no more. That's all you get.
I won't. What do we got time-wise here?
We're done. You got anything else you want to talk about?
I love my fiance. She's great. That's about it. I think there's a lot of stuff.
Where do they find all of your cool things on the internet?
JRO _. Unfortunately, the person who has JRO without the period and underscore will not respond to my direct messages to buy it from them. I'm very disappointed.
How much would you...
I paid $1,000 for it. Wouldn't even think twice about it. To lose the period and the underscore, when people just put in JRO, it just shows up. That's like being Mike at Mike.
Yeah, it's worth $1,000.
It's worth more than that. I just don't know if I have more than that to put on it. You know what I mean? Like that's another financial question that still needs to be answered. But JRO period underscore at Uniforme Inc. That one's really cool. Come back to your question actually about ink. You do not need to use ink.
Okay.
The ink is also one of those things where it's like, if you think about a lot of these like generic companies, like ink's just in it. If you think about the name Uniforme Inc., it's the most generic name to ever exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like Acme Co.
I was actually going to say that. I feel like I was only going to say that because I've heard you say that before.
It's Acme Co. And that reminds me of Bugs Bunny from back in the day.
I feel like I'm reminiscing on conversations we've had prior to.
Most likely. And that's the whole idea behind it too. It's like in a name, like what's in a name? Like what's in your name is so important. Yeah. If you think of like the biggest companies to exist, they're usual like consumer facing companies. Right. They're usually just like one word, 2 syllables. Yeah. And it's simple and it's easy to say. Google. Yahoo. Yeah. Apple. Yeah. Apple. The fucking... Sorry. Yeah. The company that makes all of the technology is called Apple.
The opposite of technology.
Excuse me? Think about that. Yeah. Actually think about it. Yeah. But it's a name that's recognizable. It's a brand identity that's recognizable. Yeah. And they've made it what they want it to be. So looking at those companies, and it's really important... This is another thing too that like I think I'm going to talk about when I go to Remix. Okay. That I talk about a lot actually is rather than looking at what's immediately happening in front of you, you need to open up your lens to everything that's going on in the world. So a lot of people find themselves very, very preoccupied with what's going on geographically directly in front of them.
Yeah, for sure.
And this has served me well in my photo stuff too. Like I work with these global companies. I don't have a single local client. I don't work with a single person locally. Yeah. None. I don't have some person haggling me for money who's local, who only has so much budget. Right. I have the luxury. It's a huge blessing. It's definitely a luxury to work with people who are at kind of like the top of the totem pole. Right. Right. But when I started taking my photos of my sneakers, I was only looking at the people who were the best. I wasn't looking at the people who were directly beside me.
Right.
I was only being like, yo, okay, these are the accounts that share the best sneaker photos. What are people doing? What are people gravitating towards?
Yeah.
Like, how do you put this together and tell an interesting story? And it's funny to say you're just telling a story about shoes, but like, how do you tell an interesting story?
Everything's story.
Everything is.
That people can process in their brains and understand and rationalize because we get story.
Yeah.
Everything is story. Everything that sticks.
Yeah. It has a story.
Form,
There's something to it. So I'm looking at those accounts. I'm not like, of course there's people who are taking pictures of shoes beside me, but like if I was preoccupied with what they're doing, I would not see who's the best in the world and then aspire to get to that level. And that's how I ended up. Like, it's a lot of like hard work. It's a lot of luck. It's a lot of timing, but it's looking at the broader picture and then using that as kind of like the compass to how you get to where you want to go. But with Uniforme, the same principles apply in terms of the naming. Like if we call ourselves Uniforme Halifax Inc.
No.
It wouldn't work, right? It could only go so far.
Right.
It could only go here.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, it's like there is a tie-in to Halifax, to Nova Scotia, with the E, tie back to the Acadians.
Right.
But you don't need to know that.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that something's really good when like there's a story to it, but you don't need it to still enjoy it.
For sure.
So in the ink is one of those things where we actually heard this woman when we went to our manufacturer say Uniforme Inc. out loud, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. I'm like, oh my God, you've made me hate our name. Yeah. And I was like, maybe we need to call it Uniforme. So then we just started calling Uniforme. And then with our socials, we couldn't get Uniforme. Someone already had it with the E on the end, but we had Uniforme Inc. No problem. We got Uniforme Inc. on our website. So we call it like it's Uniforme Inc., but then people are going to call it whatever they want. They're probably going to just call it Uniforme. Right. And actually a lot of the accessories that we have that go on as like stickers or like the floaty keychain, it just says Uniforme rather than Uniforme Inc. Right. Because we bought those before we went through that whole like roundabout thing. So even coming to that conclusion was a whole, like that could be a story in itself, right? Yeah. But the name Uniforme is one of those names that, and this is the socials at Uniforme Inc. Yeah. But Uniforme is a name that I just think is just so nothing that it's something.
It's everything.
Exactly. It's just Uniforme. And then people will say that and it comes off the tongue and you're like, okay, well, this sounds good. Yeah. Because like J. Romaine, I'm shitting on myself. It's a terrible name. Yeah. It just doesn't sound great.
J. Romaine.
Yeah, it's just like it's just not
like
good.
A lettuce.
Exactly. Well, I had a shirt that said like fresh Latuche. It was hilarious. Anyways, that's not here nor there. Like I made fun of myself all the time. That's important. Latuche. Because actually that company started when I was in Germany. The name came from my German boss, and he's like, it's a mixture of my personal name, Jesse Ross Mac Ingalls. So it's J-R-O-M-A-I-N from my full name. Right. So it has a story to it.
Whoa, okay.
Right? So that's why it's J-Ro, because it's Jesse Ross. That's why I'm J-Ro. Okay. But that has a story to it. It's just not as good a story. Right. And the end product isn't as good. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whereas this one, it has a story too, but like the end product, it's just like, that just ties back to having more experience doing it. Yeah. So back then I was like, yo, this doesn't sound great, but like, I don't want to hurt this dude's feelings. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I still do kind of like it, but now it's just like, okay, you got to be more adamant about what you do really like and what's really important to you. And that just comes from doing shit and the experience of it. I feel like I talked a lot.
You did. That was the point.
Wow.
That's why you're here.
Is it?
Yeah, we try to learn shit about you. Okay. Learn about you and your why, and you're creative, not an artist. That's new. That's new to learn.
Well,
I like that.
But you said I'm an artist. So I have a question for you then, as we conclude.
Do it.
What narratives do you think we may have changed potentially today? Or at least kind of shed new light upon?
I think the concept of working with these big ass, massive ass brands and just living in Dartmouth is pretty cool, I think. And even tying that to the story of Andy and like, yeah, I bet he would have loved to stay around here and do a lot of the stuff that he's doing. But I think that's a I think that's the thing. The Atlantic provinces are a have-not place. There's not things that can be done here.
Yeah.
Negative.
And that's changing. Andy's a little bit older than me and you.
Yeah.
So, and at that time, the reality is like, I don't think the opportunities were as abundant.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but I agree with you. And that's one of those things that I'll scream until like the cows come home and like until no one will listen to me anymore. It's like, you can do it right here. Yeah. You can do anything you want right here. You just need to open your scope up a little bit and aspire to kind of where you want to get and just work towards that. What else?
I have to answer another one.
Yeah. What other narratives?
What other narratives? I didn't know how much. I don't know if this is necessarily a narrative, but I didn't know like all the processes for all of the like woven threads and all of the like. I'd think, oh, fashion's great. I'd love to do it, but like I'm not gonna order a bunch of like basic things and then like print some stuff on. Yeah. I'd like to build it from the beginning, and then you hear about the process. It's like I don't know if I want to do that anymore.
Yeah, let the record state. I'm shaking my head like, oh God. Yeah, but it's true, and I'm happy I could debunk that for you, and hopefully. Like the price point question is a very legitimate question,
right?
And I hopefully that helped illuminate why the price is where it's at right now,
right? And you can make really dope quality, high, like you can make really dope quality local Canadian products here, and people fuck with them.
Yeah, that's definitely challenging the narrative. Challenging the narrative for sure. Okay,
do you have one?
Like what?
Yeah, since you want to ask me questions.
No. I've been talking this whole time. That's the reason why I asked you.
Okay. You know what? We might need to ask that question at the end of every show. I think that's a really good idea.
When we talked about like implementing some segments, I think that's a nice tie back to the whole concept of what this is about.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like sometimes it could be a rambling conversation.
Yeah. And
if people are in it for the long haul, they'll listen to it. There's a lot of value in that. That's amazing. But if you can kind of wrap things up in a bow at the end, people like finality.
Yes. Closed loops.
Exactly.
Closed story loops.
Exactly. So if you can bring that back, that might be a nice little kind of like bow tie on the whole thing.
Yeah. I'm going to work on that. Segments and our segues.
There we go. That's a... And I think too, it could be potentially like challenging the narrative. You know what I mean? Like, like it doesn't necessarily maybe need to be, and this might be throwing a big wrench in the gears here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, but
it's still CTN though.
It's true. It's true. But it's the idea of like, okay, you maybe not changing the narrative every single time, but you're challenging whatever that like preconceived notion in that narrative is through conversation.
This is the current Changing the Narrative podcast. Maybe to be renamed the Challenging of the Narrative podcast, or maybe a Challenging the Narrative segment.
Wow, there we are.
Who knows? You will learn in the future. This is the Changing the Narrative podcast. Thank you for listening.
Thank y'all.
That shit was amazing.
Wow.
Oh!
I'm emotionally drained now.